Dear you, I'm writing to you from a version of yourself who remembers the ache of being stuck in a space you couldn't describe. No longer the person you used to be, but not yet the person you were trying to become. It was a strange, lonely tension. You felt suspended between chapters, living in a transition that seemed to stretch on endlessly. Every time you tried to move forward, something invisible tugged you back. Every time you tried to return to old habits, something inside whispered, "You've outgrown this." And so you stayed in the middle, unsure of where to place your feet. I remember how frustrating it was. You kept asking yourself why progress felt so slow, why clarity felt missing, why your motivation rose and fell unpredictably. You felt guilty for not being further along, guilty for not being who you thought you should be, guilty for not being able to go back to who you were before. It wasn't laziness. It wasn't lack of effort. It was simply the emotional weight of transformation, quiet, internal, exhausting. There were days when you woke up feeling ready to change everything. You felt a spark, a sense of direction, a breath of new possibilities. But the next day, you felt overwhelmed again, unsure of how to begin. That inconsistency made you doubt yourself. You wondered why you couldn't maintain momentum. You wondered if you were sabotaging your own growth without meaning to. You wondered if you would ever reach the version of yourself you dreamed of. You didn't tell many people about this inner conflict. It didn't look dramatic enough to explain. It wasn't a crisis. It wasn't a disaster. It was simply a heaviness that lived quietly under your skin, unnoticed by the outside world. But inside, you felt like you were endlessly rearranging pieces of yourself without knowing the final picture. You were mourning old identities, identities you had carried for years, identities that shaped how others saw you, identities that once felt safe. And mourning takes time. It takes space. It takes silence. You didn't realize that the sadness you felt wasn't failure. It was grief for the version of yourself you were leaving behind. I saw you trying to navigate that in-between space with patience you didn't give yourself credit for. I saw the quiet courage it took to keep going, even when you didn't have answers, and nothing about that uncertainty made you weak. It made you someone who was changing on a level deeper than words could hold. Your past self understands now that being stuck between who you were and who you're becoming is not a flaw. It's a natural, necessary part of growth. You weren't meant to snap instantly into a new version of yourself. Transformation is not a switch. It is a slow unfolding. And during that unfolding, your old habits and new desires collide, creating confusion that masquerades as stagnation. You felt stuck because you were shedding things that once defined you. Beliefs that no longer aligned with your truth. Routines that no longer nurtured your well-being. Relationships that no longer matched your energy. Patterns you once clung to for safety, but had outgrown without realizing it. Letting go of these things wasn't easy. It required emotional energy you didn't know you were using. You thought you were stuck, but you were actually clearing space for new strength, new clarity, new identity. Your past self wants to explain something you couldn't understand back then. You were not unmotivated. You were exhausted. You were not indecisive. You were evolving. You were not failing. You were in transition. And transitions are heavy. They require you to hold two truths at once. I am no longer who I was. And I am not yet who I will be. Living in that tension is uncomfortable, but it is also sacred. It is where growth gathers its momentum. It is where your inner world rearranges itself quietly before the outside world sees any evidence. It is where you reshape your identity from the inside out. You feared falling behind, but there was never a timeline you needed to meet. Growth doesn't follow a calendar. Identity doesn't follow a straight line. Healing doesn't follow a schedule. You were always moving forward, even when it felt like standing still. Your past self knows now that the frustration you felt was a sign of transformation, not failure. The discomfort you felt was the beginning of alignment. The uncertainty you felt was your intuition making space for what would eventually feel like truth. You were not stuck. You were changing. You were reorganizing your heart. You were creating room for a version of yourself who would one day feel more whole than you could imagine. And that process, messy, slow, quiet, was exactly what you needed. Now I'm speaking to the you reading this, the you who may still feel caught between chapters, still unsure of which direction to take, still afraid that you're not moving fast enough. I want you to breathe deeply. Let this truth anchor itself inside you. You are not behind. You are not stuck. You are in transition, and transition is movement. The version of you you're becoming is already forming quietly beneath the surface. You feel the pull of new desires. You feel the shift in your values. You feel the soft unraveling of things you once relied on. All of these sensations are signs of growth, gentle, powerful, undeniable. You don't need to rush your evolution. You don't need to know every next step. You don't need to force clarity. Your next chapter is not something you have to chase. It's something you are slowly growing into. Think of this moment as a threshold. 1 foot in the past, 1 foot in the future, your heart learning to bridge the space between. This is where strength forms. This is where purpose emerges. This is where direction becomes clear, not all at once, but one small realization at a time. You are allowed to move slowly. You are allowed to explore who you're becoming without pressure. You are allowed to take time to realign with yourself. And when you finally step fully into your next chapter, it won't feel forced. It will feel natural, grounded deeply right, because you took the time to become someone who is ready for it. Your past self is proud of the way you've endured the uncertainty, proud of the way you've kept going, even when the path was foggy, proud of the way you've listened to your heart, even when it whispered instead of shouted. Take one more slow breath. Let it settle in your chest like a quiet promise. Let it remind you of this truth. You are not stuck. You are becoming. And soon, you will step into a life that feels like it was waiting for you all along. Sincerely, you.